100 miles of hold-your-breath white-knuckle stock car racing. How will the new car of tomorrow react in its super speedway debut?
We saw these guys really aggressive early laps. Why they all get single file?
What's the score on the NNC? 14-3 Redskins on top. Hell yeah.
Look at Stewart. Top to the bottom, bottom to the top. Here comes Gordon on the outside.
Jeff Gordon takes the win at Talladega.
That was impressive. Yeah!
That was a week ago. This weekend, we are back deep in the heart of stock car country, the high-banked 1.5-mile oval that has earned the nickname the Beast of the Southeast, Lowe's Motor Speedway. For NASCAR Nextel Cup action, it is stop number 5 on the chase for the Nextel Cup. After Talladega, 9 points separate Jimmy Johnson from Jeff Gordon. There is Tony Stewart back in 4th spot. Kevin Harvick remained in 5th. 8 out of those 12 spots shuffled after Talladega. And take a look and remember where these guys are starting tonight. 4 cars starting in the top 10. And folks, there are 5 that are starting 24th or worse. Oh my. NASCAR coverage of the NASCAR Nextel Cup Happy Hour coming to you live from Concord, North Carolina, Lowe's Motor Speedway. Getting set for the Bank of America 500. Of course, that's coming your way tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on ABC. They are lined up to go out for the final hour of practice. And who's been good here? Well, take a look. Jeff Gordon, 4 wins and 29 starts. And they were going to name this place actually Jimmy Johnsonville because Jimmy has had 5 wins in 12 starts. He dominated. In fact, he swept both seasons in 2004 and 2005. Been awfully darn good. The other chasers have just 4 wins among them and the other 10 drivers. Hello, everyone. Along with the champions, Rusty Walls, Andy Petrie, I'm Jerry Punch. Glad to have you with us here for the final 1 hour of practice prior to tomorrow night's race beginning about 7:40 Eastern Time. And guys, here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, this is the last time you'll be in the cars. What do you want to know right now that's going to help you tomorrow night?
Well, Jerry, I got to make sure my car's handling really good because the track conditions have been changing a lot. The track has been cool, real cool. It's been warming up and down all over the place. And now the sun's starting to set. I got to make sure this car's handling really good and it's got some adjustability into it. Now, one thing I'm really looking at is making sure my car is hooked up in what we call Calamity Corner, and that's turn 4. A lot of guys have been losing the car off of turn 4. And Andy, there's a lot of other things that come in this race, but, adjusting these changing track conditions to me are very, very important also.
That's one thing they're going to be doing in this practice session is trying different things and seeing how the car reacts. They'll try some spring rubbers. They'll try some shock adjustments maybe, some tire pressure changes. But one thing they'll do too is they'll be experimenting with the lines. You saw the guys in qualifying. They're all right down on the bottom of the racetrack. You'll see some of these guys really searching the top and trying to find that grip up top. That's going to take some adjusting on the car to make that work. And don't forget how this race was won in May. They'll also be checking that fuel mileage.
So many different agendas up for grabs and things I'll be looking at tonight. What about our points leader, Jeff Gordon? For more on him, here's Dave Burns.
And as Andy referred to, running the different lines here, Jeff Gordon's one of those guys that usually likes to run the low line here at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. Now, during that last practice session they had earlier this afternoon, that's where he stayed the entire time. In fact, crew chief Steve Letarte commented to Jeff, if we're going to try the high line, we're going to save that for the race. And I just spoke to Steve again, and he said, Jeff doesn't usually race up there either, so we will set our car up for the low line. If we have to search for the high line, it'll be because we're trying things. Right now, Jeff's car, very balanced, very good, and as Andy said as well, they'll work on a couple of things, try a couple of things during this final practice session. Jeff will start 4th in tomorrow night's 500-miler here. Mike?
Dave, with 4 chase races now in the books, there are several championship contenders who find themselves in a very deep, if not insurmountable, hole. Among them, Jeff Burton, 12th in the standings, 336 points back, and his flickering championship hopes took an even greater hit this afternoon in the first practice. Burton slapped the outside wall in turn 3, and the team has been spending several hours trying to repair that car. A lot of concentration on the right front fender. The team only got 15 laps of practice this afternoon, so this practice takes on additional importance. They've got 1 hour to dial that car in. Doc?
A lot of things to think about. Thank you, guys, down on pit road. And really, for these guys, the pressure, as he said, the pressure is off a little bit because now they can sort of relax. They may not be necessarily a contender, but they'll have a chance to get it done here and maybe relax and win a few races. Lots of racing action to come your way here throughout the weekend. Of course, Nextel Cup Happy Hour coming up next. NASCAR Busch Series Racing live flag-to-flag coverage. It's an all-Roush Fenway front row led by Greg Biffle. He will lead him down. Our coverage coming up next here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. NASCAR Now, presented by Mobile One. And then our live flag-to-flag coverage, the Bank of America 500 at Charlotte, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on ABC. Back with Happy Hour in a moment. Our coverage of NASCAR Nextel Cup Happy Hour being brought to you by Bank of America. Bank of America invites you to open a NASCAR banking account, including checks, check card, and credit card. Visit your local Bank of America banking center for more information. Bank of America, Bank of Opportunity. Well, this is the final opportunity for the NASCAR Nextel Cup drivers to be able to get their cars dialed in for what will be 500 miles of racing here under the lights on Saturday night. Quick thus far here in the early part of Happy Hour, the one car of Martin Truex, who, by the way, has the lowest starting spot of any of the chasers. Truex will start back in 32nd position here tomorrow night.
Got a fast hot rod, though, sitting there first place, 29.43. That's a pretty quick lap.
Yeah, right now that's the most important thing, making sure your car's handling good right now because the track is cooling down. You can see that the sun is starting to set here in Charlotte. Cars are getting faster, and the handling's really changing.
You see they're searching around here on the racetrack a little bit, not running right on the bottom. He's running right in the middle of the racetrack.
One of his teammates, Paul Menard, currently was second quickest a moment ago. Turned in some pretty good laps with the DEI engine package after the DEI RCR engines took a bit of a hit last week at Talladega. Tough break for them, but obviously showing some muscle here.
Paul's looking pretty racy here this weekend.
Looks like he's going to pull in right now, make some more adjustments. Right now, Menard's third quick right now.
Not the best track record this year for the engine programs. You see Dale Earnhardt Incorporated 11 engine failures, and you Dale Earnhardt fans very familiar that he had 7 DNFs this year, 6 of which were engine related. So
this is one of those stats you want to be at the bottom of the heap, not at the top. Hate seeing those, I'll tell you that. As a team owner, I can tell you that's one of the worst things is engine failure.
And one team you don't see on that list at all, they're talking about the Roush Yates engines and Roush Fenway, including this guy here, Greg Biffle, coming off that first win of the year 2 weeks ago at Kansas City. Now finds himself at the top of the speed chart.
Tell you what, this guy's been bad fast all week long. I mean, fast in the Busch Series car, and right now he's at the top of the board.
Somebody lit a fire under
He really
Greg
has.
Biffle.
He's had a tough year at the beginning, Andy, just like you said, and somebody woke him up, and his car's been handling well. You know, he told us earlier in the year that he just couldn't get the rhythm right, couldn't get the chassis figured out, and now he's going from race to race with some momentum, some good feel in that car.
He's passing Jimmy Johnson right here. He's also on the pole for the Busch race tonight. Got a fast Busch car, fast Cup car.
Yeah, Biffle's got a score to settle here. Finished 43rd in the May race here. Talking about having good effort, good karma here at this racetrack. Jimmy Johnson, a 5-time winner here, currently second in the point standings. Not only did he win 5 races here, he finished second last year both times to Casey Kane.
You know, a lot of times when a driver's having a run of bad luck, he's looking for his favorite racetrack to get to, a place where he knows he's going to do good, a place where he thinks he can run good, and that was my Bristol. Every time I got in trouble and I went to Bristol, I can run good. But as far as Jimmy Johnson, every time he gets to come to Charlotte, North Carolina, he's like, man, yahoo, I can get it done here. Dave?
It's been kind of an interesting, little bit different final practice for Jimmy Johnson. He doesn't run in the NASCAR Busch Series a lot, and he had to come straight from his qualifying run over there. Actually, I think it was a driver's meeting over there to come to do this final practice session. He's usually one of the first guys out on the track, and while cars were taken to the track this time, he was way back in the end of the line because he had to wait because he got here a little bit late. So one of the different things going on for Jimmy Johnson this night.
Talk about how good Jimmy Johnson has been over the years at this racetrack. We talk about 5 wins and only 12 starts. Does the word domination come to mind?
Jimmy Johnson wins his second straight Coke 600.
Jimmy Johnson wins the UAW GM Quality 500.
It's the Charlotte Sweep.
Jimmy Johnson,
48 car.
he did it.
4 in a row at Lowe's.
Boy, I don't know how you guys can say
5 wins here. How about others who have been awfully good at this racetrack? The legendary Bobby Allison, a 6-time winner here at what was then Charlotte Motor Speedway. Darrell Waltrip, old DW, a 6-time winner here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. The King, Richard Petty, a 5-time winner, 7 Cup titles. And how about the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt? Boy, was he so good at this racetrack. And now Jimmy Johnson joins that elite group with 5 wins. In fact, 2 runner-up finishes in his last 3 starts here. One of the guys they're going to be chasing all night tomorrow night is the guy they call the Rocket Man. Now, he has never won a race here, remarkably, at Lowe's Motor Speedway, but he's set on the pole, counting tomorrow night, 7 times.
That's incredible. The poles that this guy's got, how fast he can go in qualifying is just unbelievable.
They've had some really good runs here at Charlotte, especially in qualifying, but just can't seem to get the car handling late in the run. And right now he's 4th quick in practice, so the car looks good on the track. The front of it's real low. And Ryan started out on the bottom of the track, I've noticed. He's worked it to the top, and he's really working turn 3 and 4 pretty high. But down there in turn 1 and 2, he's been really toying around with that line to try to get this thing in victory line.
Talk about how important this past May was for the Hendrick team. How about Casey Mears getting his very first NASCAR Nextel Cup victory? Mears he continues to talk about how special that night was here, coming on his 156th career start to come to this racetrack and get a win. No surprise at all that a guy by the name of Mears will be winning on Memorial Day after his uncle Rick won 4 times in the famed Indianapolis 500.
600 miles. Let's get this Sunday night party started. Here we go.
Trouble, turn 1. Stewart sideways and a melee.
Back it down, I can't see.
We have a bunch of 12 race cars down there.
Yo! Man, Jeff Gordon took a lick. 3,400-pound cars just bouncing around like basketballs.
Will it be a race to the finish?
You only need just a splash of gas.
No. We have been racing 5.5 hours, and it comes down to this.
Casey Mears is going to win his first Nextel Cup race, the Coke 600.
Unbelievable job.
Take a look at Casey's career here at Charlotte. 9 races, a win, 3 top 10s. And this is a team, by the way, for Casey Mears that has really gotten hot here in the last 4 races. He is the only driver in the entire series that's had top 10 finishes in all 4 of the chase events. There's his records, there's numbers here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, his only career win. But you know what? As good as this team, as well as this team is running, they could certainly be a factor here tomorrow night.
That kind of consistency is what you can build something on. When you got a race team that's that consistent and consistently good, then you're going to start building on that, and you're going to start winning races before long. And he'll be one of those guys just like Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon over at Hendrick.
Well, right now he looks like he's pretty consistent right now. He's 11th quick at the moment, and he's been working the bottom of the track and the top of the track. You can tell that he's trying to see if the car is going to work all over. A lot of searching around going out there, but his speed's real good.
Back behind him, another one of the chase contenders, the 17 car of Matt Kenseth. Talk about having bad luck. If he didn't have any bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. Back-to-back 35th place finishes at Dover and Kansas City. And, of course, finishing 26th, being caught up in the big one late there at Talladega. So it's been a tough road to hoe. Kenseth, 11th in the point standings, now 318 points back of the leader, Jeff Gordon. Well, we asked different drivers, who knows you better? Could it be your wife, Katie, or maybe your crew chief, Robbie Reiser? Let's see what Matt Kenseth had to say.
Hi, I'm Matt Kenseth. It's time to find out who knows me better, my wife or my crew chief. Who do I pattern my driving style after?
I would have to say Mark Martin.
He's always looked at Mark Martin's style.
I pattern my driving style after Mark Martin. What dessert can I never say no to?
Anything that Katie cooks, I suppose.
He should talk. He eats her cooking all the time.
Apple crisp with vanilla ice cream.
I always have to have it with ice cream on. That is right. If there was a movie about my life, who would play me?
I would probably say Pierce Brosnan, because when Pierce Brosnan was younger, I used to think he was very good looking. And of course, I think Matt's very good looking.
Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, he's confused. Which I've seen that a time or two in him. What is my favorite TV show?
I think he likes Numbers.
He pays a lot of attention to soaps, daily soaps.
I used to watch Days of Our Lives. I haven't watched it in a few years. Even though Robbie has known me longer than Katie, obviously my wife knows me better.
Back at Lowe's Motor Speedway here, getting set for finishing up, I should say, happy hour for the Bank of America 500. There is Jeff Gordon, the current NASCAR Nextel Cup points leader, and let's see what's going on with him in this session. Dave Burns?
Yeah, Jerry, if you wonder what's been happening for Jeff and what his foot is feeling and maybe his rear end too and what he's translating back to his crew, just listen in.
That's not necessarily the problem. I'm plowing getting in, then I'm loose middle off. That force, I won't turn getting down to the middle, and then it's loose off. Like I got to drive in real easy. If I try to drive in deep at all, it just goes straight.
What they did to address that was they changed the front sway bar. It looked a little bigger going in. Wasn't able to tell exactly if it was larger or smaller, but that might have helped a bit. They also popped out some spring rubbers, which they could put back in later, that adjustability thing you guys have been talking about. So just tweaking on it right now, trying to find that better feel for Jeff.
Dave, Jeff Gordon has been very good at this racetrack. In fact, his first pole came here. His very first career win came here. But recently, the last 5 times he has come here, he has DNF'd, failed to finish. And he has not finished a race here since October of 2004. Hard to believe. Well, we couldn't believe it either, folks. So take a look. We'll go back and show you exactly what happened. May of 2005. Jeff Gordon started second, led 49 laps until he gets right there. He's a victim of that incident. He would finish in 30th spot. How about October of that year, 2005? Gordon qualified 10th, but there he would bounce off the wall and have troubles, head back to the garage area and log a 38th place finish. May of 2006, ouch, that has to hurt. Finished 36th, a DNF after leading 18 laps. October of that year, tough effort for Gordon as he goes to the garage area with a 24th place finish, another DNF. And then this past spring, look at this hard lick for Gordon coming all the way across right in front of traffic, right into the concrete wall, the safer barrier, thankfully, and Gordon logged a 41st place finish, 5 consecutive DNFs at this racetrack.
Man, for a guy leading the points, to be coming in this race with this many problems, it's got to be on his mind right now, Andy. I think this, as a crew chief, I'd be calming him down, saying, it's okay, man, you can get past this.
Just watching that video right there gives me a headache. All those wrecks and blown engines. It's a crew chief, man, that's a nightmare.
But it has been a good day for several drivers, including one David Rudeman in the 00. An announcement made just after lunch today that not only will he run full-time in the NASCAR Busch Series next year, he is the heir apparent to the UPS Toyota when Dale Jarrett steps aside. It was announced earlier today that Dale Jarrett would run the first 5. He'll run the Busch Shootout, the first 5 points-paying races, and then Dale will step out of the car until the All-Star race here at Lowe's Motor Speedway in May. But when he steps out, David Rudeman was the guy everyone wanted to put in that car, so a great opportunity for David at Michael Waltrip Racing.
That is going to be a great opportunity for David, and that's the one. Dale really wanted to see this guy get in that car because he and Dale are great friends. It's sad to see Dale Jarrett stepping out of the car, though. What a great career he's had.
Yeah, he's had a great career, and it's yet to be seen how he's going to do next year in the Daytona 500, the first 5 races he's going to do. This team, the Toyota team of Michael Waltrip Racing, I expect it's going to get better and better. They've had their ups and downs this year. And I believe David's the type of guy that can pull him out of this.
Very marketable young man, very good talent. In fact, he's a young man that'll do just about anything you ask him to do if it helps out the sponsorship. Now, for example, he's sponsored by Domino's here. They said, David, can you help us out a little bit? It's a very busy week here in Charlotte. And folks, here's what happened.
Hey, thanks for calling Domino's Pizza, where we love our customers. This is David. May I take your order, please? Here, this is me. How much time I got? 10 minutes. All right, I got this. I'm set. I got this covered, easy. Before I got to go. This gentleman, hopefully, will be happy and give me a big tip. We're going to get in this vehicle and hopefully find the right address. I'm not sure where we're going. Heck yeah. Second delivery of the night. Found a place again.
Hey, man. David Rudeman?
Yes, sir. That's me. How are you, sir?
Good. Hey, guys, come here.
All right, there's your stuff. Hey, guys, what's going on? I'm going to go back before I get fired.
David Rudeman actually did deliver pizzas here earlier in the week, so I guess you got to, he said for a while when he was trying to get his driving skills up, he actually was involved working for UPS as a jumper. You jump off the truck and you run the packages to the door, and now he's going to be driving for UPS in 2008. A lot of discussions ongoing here during happy hour. Here's teammates to beat in 2008. Kyle Busch going over to Joe Gibbs Racing. Now you're going to go up and talk to Greg Zipadelli there, the crew chief. Tony sitting in the 20 car.
Yeah, and he's going walking up to him right now and saying, hey, can you help me out? And they say, not this year, next year maybe.
Yeah, check back with me next year.
That's racing to do yet. You go back to your pit area. We'll see you next year. Mike?
Yeah, Rusty, I was thinking the same thing because I just spoke with Alan Gustafson, his current crew chief, and he didn't have very good things to say about the race car. They're really struggling right now, looking for speed and awfully tight. They're making a truck arm adjustment right now, trying to get that car a little bit more free, but it also looks like they may be thinking about maybe making a shock adjustment, maybe a spring adjustment, but they're thrashing on this car right now. Very unhappy. 30th on the speed chart currently. Dave?
Mike, after a good first run, the 48 car came in with just a couple of minor complaints from driver Jimmy Johnson. One of them, the crew spent quite a bit of time examining the left front end of the car. Jimmy mentioned going down into the corner, a bit of a quiver from that left front end, so the crew just sort of checked everything over to make sure everything looked right there. Nothing was hung up, nothing was loose over there. And then he just mentioned that it was a little bit tight in the center of the corner, so they're making some adjustments now. Going to change a couple of things out, but generally okay for the 48 bunch.
See them changing springs here in the garage area. They're just probably trying some things here to see how the car reacts to them.
Well, now in the last couple of days, they haven't had these track conditions, Andy. It's a lot cooler right now. They've, this last half an hour of practice could be very, very critical to them.
Jimmy Johnson's chase thus far. He's second in the points, much better than a year ago, finishing second at Talladega, third at Kansas. Last year when he came to this race, he was 8th in the points, 156 points behind. In fact, he had not had a top 10 finish, or did not have a top 10 finish in the chase until he got here last year, went on to become the champion. Johnny Sauter, here's a young man that stepped up here in the second half of the year, got that career best 5th place finish at Richmond, doing a nice job here in the 70 car for the Haas Motorsport team.
Sitting here 26th fastest in practice. He's logged about 11 laps so far. Fastest lap 29.81. What these guys will do, they'll go out there and make 10 or 12 lap runs if the car's good. Now, if the car's not feeling good to the driver, usually they'll just run a few laps, come in and adjust on it a little bit. But if it feels good, they'll go out there and run 10, 12. Some of them even run up to 20 lap runs at a time.
Well, right now I'm looking at him. He's showing 26 in time at the moment, but his lap times compared to the rest of the competitors and later on these runs, he's very competitive right now. I mean, I just showed a last lap of a 30.14, and Greg Biffle's lap was a 30.31, so he's not far off at all.
Well, a lot of times these guys look at this monitor and they see where they rank. This monitor ranks the fastest lap times that they turn in this session. It doesn't reflect all of the laps that they run. So if they go out there and run a 10 or 12 lap run and their average speed is pretty fast, I mean, it won't show up on this monitor.
This 70 car, by the way, there are two cars, Johnny Sauter and Jeff Green. They're both run for Haas Motorsports. And it was announced last week that Scott Riggs will be moving over to join this team in 2008. Still not really sure exactly where this driver will be driving, which car he'll be in 2008. Neither one of the drivers that are in those cars have heard anything about the future, but Scott Riggs headed there. And what about's going to happen for this car number 10 next year? It was announced, in fact, on Wednesday this week that Patrick Carpentier, the talented open-wheel driver from Quebec, Canada, has been hired by Gillette Evernham, and he will run full-time in 2008. Patrick Carpentier, by the way, sat on the pole in the Busch race at Montreal and had a good one, led laps at Watkins Glen International in his first Cup start. So another talented open-wheel driver coming full-time to NASCAR's Nextel Cup. Coming up after us, live coverage of NASCAR Busch Series action. Greg Biffle will lead the charge among the top 3 cars in qualifying, all Roush Fenway cars. And of course tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, NASCAR Now, presented by Mobil 1. And then at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, we got Brent Musburger and the whole crowd here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Live coverage of Bank of America 500 on ABC. Welcome back to our live coverage here at Lowe's Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina, along with Andy Petrie, Rusty Wallace. I'm Jerry Punch. Glad to have you with us. Bank of America 500 Happy Hour. Denny Hamlin, one of our chase contenders. There's his chase thus far. You talk about clawing back into it. That 4th place finish at Talladega helped him rise 3 spots to 9th right now in the chase standings.
Taking us on a nice fast ride right here, going around the racetrack with Denny Hamlin. Got a nice pretty wheel right here, driving down in the corner. Looks like a video game, doesn't it, Russ?
Yeah, it really does. And they're starting to pick the throttle up now. They're up to about 8,000 and climbing. It's one of the fastest parts of the racetrack getting down into turn 1 because of the dog leg. Makes the track longer. Drivers want to keep the car right on the bottom if they possibly can, because this is the fastest way around the track. But Andy, as you all know, down there in turn 3 and 4, they're going to have that thing right up against the wall, searching for some grip tomorrow night.
I love this track since they've resurfaced it. Now you've got grooves all the way from the white line on the bottom all the way to the wall. And now we see Denny Hamlin experiment with a little different line. We saw the last lap he went down through that corner on the bottom. These guys will search around, especially in practice now, just to kind of see where their car likes to run, and then they'll adjust on it.
A lot of the cars really like to run low in turn 1 and 2. That's a pretty easy corner for them. But as we come down the back straightaway now, a lot of them are starting to negotiate the entry of turn 3. You're actually kind of turning into the corner a little bit on the flat of the track.
Now he's staying way up on the racetrack.
Now, here comes Calamity Corner. This is where the problems are. They're on the banking, now on the flat of the racetrack right there. And folks, tomorrow night, that's where you're going to see a lot of problems.
Well, Rusty, if you look at the book, it says the banking is 24 degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 24 in 1 and 2. Why is turn 4 such a problem for these guys last year and this year?
Jerry, in my opinion, they just needed to carry this banking just a little bit farther around this racetrack, but still, it's been this way for a long time. But ever since they repaved this racetrack, Goodyear had to bring a tough tire here, and the tire's awful hard. It doesn't have the grip, and the cars just can't stick off of turn 4 with this banking falling off like they used to. In my mind, when this track gets a little older, it'll get better.
Pretty good now. I like this racetrack the way it is. They race good here.
Speaking of racing pretty good here, Kyle Petty had a great run going at Talladega last week. He's a former winner here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, winning May in 1987. Been a while, but Kyle likes coming to this racetrack, and typically his Dodges have run very well. Talk about being in this series quite a while. Look at the starts here in NASCAR Nextel Cup history. Kyle Petty now over 800 starts. Moving in one more to tie Darrell Waltrip. Of course, Darrell and Terry, Dave Marcus have retired. Ricky Rudd now back for the first time after that 5-week absence. He will make his 901st start. And let's update the 31 car in the garage area. What's going on there with Jeff Burton? Mike?
Well, Jerry, you can see the right front fender on the 31 car. All that Bondo, that's a product of the work that this team did between practices today. We mentioned at the top of the show that Jeff Burton slapped the outside wall in turn number 3 in the first practice, and they had to repair this race car. Well, the good news is the team tells me they've gotten the car back to where it was in that first practice. The bad news, they're still not very good. Really trying to get that car to turn a lot better. Right now, Jeff, very unhappy with the way it's handling. Dave?
And Clint Boyer was unhappy earlier when his car didn't turn well at all. Then they made a change that got the car freed up a bit, and it turned real well until he got behind traffic. So they went to the front shocks to make another change for him there. Guys, it's different tuning these cars to run by themselves and to run in traffic, isn't it?
The tuning on these cars is totally different. I mean, if you're in traffic, these cars do way different things. They'll be real tight. In a all night's race, they'll get down to the turn 1. They'll slide the front end really big time. And if they get a car, Andy, right up behind them off of turn 4, they're going to experience very loose conditions. So, hey, qualifying was one thing, but racing, it's way different.
And the problem with that is you can't test that. You can't come to a racetrack or go to a test session and test for that. You have to actually be in race conditions with all these other cars on the racetrack to experience what that really is like. And that dirty air is just nothing like the clean air. So these guys just having to figure it out here.
Here's the 49 car of John Andretti coming off that great qualifying, top 10 qualifying effort a week ago at Talladega, driving the BAM Motorsports. And he was the original open wheel defector that came out of open wheel racing after running the Indianapolis 500, finishing 5th twice at Indy. Of course, he is the godson of the legendary A.J. Foyt, and of course the nephew of Mario Andretti. He decided to come run full-time in NASCAR's Nextel Cup, a 2-time winner here, winning at Martinsville and Daytona. How about the other open wheel guys that have now come down south, like Juan Pablo Montoya? Sam Horney's coming down. We mentioned Patrick Carpentier is on his way, and next year, of course, full-time, Dario Franchitti.
Jerry, these are some world-class drivers. These guys absolutely know how to drive a car, and a lot of these owners think, you know what, these are some of the best drivers in the world. I'm pretty sure we can get them adapted to NASCAR Nextel Cup style of racing. They've got the mentality to go fast.
They still have to get it done. I mean, we've seen that Juan Pablo Montoya can get it done on the road course. But these open wheel guys, they've got some credentials, but they have to get here in NASCAR and show that they can do it in a stock car.
Here's a guy that's done that, A.J. Allmendinger, former Champ Car Rookie of the Year. We asked him, what would you tell the guys that are coming this way from open wheel about what's going to happen here in NASCAR?
I wouldn't tell them anything because I want them to suffer as bad as we've had to suffer this year. And there's no reason to give them advice. So, you know, hey, that's what happens when you're out of the top 35 points. You don't want anybody coming in and stealing more spots out of the field.
Yeah, this is a tough sport.
There's a fellow I saw on the Daytona prototypes, A.J. Allmendinger. He just flew around on the road courses. Daytona, the 24 Hours of Daytona, tracks like that. And you put him in here and he struggled. But
he's got a lot of talent. He's gonna do well. He just has to get more and more laps on these racetracks in these cars. You see, here's our rookies. Juan Pablo Montoya leading the rookie points. He's an open wheel guy. And then David Reagan, he's hanging right there, 15 points back. And then my guy, Paul Menard, there, 43 points out.
Tony Stewart, another guy that came from open wheel Rusty.
Yeah, and he figured it out real quick. Tony Stewart did. Didn't take him long. Take a look at him. Pretty smooth on the wheel right now. There's an air hose hooked to the top of his helmet. That's what it looks like inside the car. Driver's compartment. Sawing on the wheel a little bit. He's not turning back to the right, so indication the car's pretty neutral, or maybe pushing her a little bit right there off of turn 4.
One thing I've noticed about this guy is if it has wheels on it, he can drive. It doesn't matter what they are. Open wheel, closed wheel, fenders, it doesn't matter.
Got down to about 9,200 RPMs, get down into turn 1.
Dave?
Guys, I checked with the crew of the 20 car to see how Tony was doing. Actually pretty happy with it right now. They've been to both sides of the balance issue. A little bit loose, a little bit tight. You guys have spoken about adjustability. They're starting to figure out really to a fine point just where they can take this 20 car. And that could be good for Tony and bad for the rest of the competition.
You know, I've watched this competition all night long in these practice sessions. And Andy, I think I would pay attention most to the center of turn 3 and 4 to the exit of turn 4. It seems like if you get the car to work on the bottom and the top in turn 3 and 4 and be able to have the car hooked up off that corner, that can win you the race.
The reason that corner is so important at this racetrack is because the front straightaway is so long, and the speed that you carry off of that turn 4 is the speed you carry all the way down the straightaway.
We saw in Busch practice, and we also saw in Busch qualifying, where a lot of the drivers were picking a lot of speed up in qualifying off of turn 4. Our lap tracker would climb right there, and you can tell that's where they were going to increase the lap time and make it better.
How does practicing here in the twilight and then moving to the darkness, so that's what's going to happen tonight in the NASCAR Busch Series race and tomorrow night, although it'll be almost dark when we start tomorrow night, how does that affect the driver?
Well, Jerry, I know it kind of sounds like a broken record, but this practice session right now is so key because the track keeps getting cooler and cooler, and it's still not going to be as cool as it is when we start this race tomorrow night. So these last 15 minutes, last 30 minutes, or whatever we got left, are so key. They've been here for 2 days practicing, and now this last little bit is the most important.
Take a look at where the Chasers are currently practicing in terms of their speed in this. Remember, that's one lap, and we don't know what kind of tires they've got on or how far along they are in used tires or what they're working on, but you see that Jeff Gordon 32nd on the speed charts, Tony Stewart 5th, Jimmy Johnson pretty good up at 7th, as you might expect. Martin Truex 2nd overall in terms of speed, and he's the worst chaser in terms of starting position. Again, he starts 32nd tomorrow night.
And Jerry, again, this is not where they're actually stacking up as they're practicing now. This was the very fastest lap, and a lot of these guys go out and lay one lap out just to get on top of this board. It's kind of the thing I call it makes sponsors happy. When they see their car on top of the board and the pit crews are kind of pounding their chest, it makes them feel good.
One guy's not chasing a championship this year, but is chasing a victory. Standing by with Mike Massaro.
That's right, Doc. He's looking for his first victory of the year. First victory in quite some time. He's got a winless streak of over 55 races now, and that's Dale Earnhardt Jr. But it seems like you've got a pretty good race car. You quit practice in both sessions today early. How good is it?
It's pretty good. I don't think we can make it much better. We were really, really happy. We were running teens in that first practice, and everybody else was running 70s, and we feel really good. And we went out on 15 lap tires to start this practice, and we run about 30 laps more on those tires and still run our last lap was a 1.0. So I think we're got to be one of the top 3 cars, if not the best car out there right now. So we're just gonna, you know, we tried a few things that we had some ideas and question marks about as far as adjustability tomorrow. We got that in the bank, and we're done.
And that says it all, Dave. He's pretty happy with his race car, quitting early here in the second practice.
29 car of Kevin Harvick not done yet. Mike still making some changes on that car, but overall fairly satisfied with the way it's running. 5th in the championship right now coming into the Lowe's Motor Speedway. What they're going to do this time, the last change they made for Kevin didn't like that, he said, just too loose. So they're looking under the left side there. Appears they might be either putting a spring rubber back in or pulling one out, or just working on the left rear suspension there. But overall for Harvick, a pretty good race car right now.
Kevin Harvick nursed that car to an unbelievable 20th place finish despite the fact that he was on 7 cylinders and having some engine troubles a week ago. The key at this racetrack, as Rusty just told you got to be consistent. Here are the guys in this section. Their 10-lap average speeds. Look at the top of the charts. Biffle is there. Newman is there. Jimmy Johnson. Mark Martin, what a surprise. Average speed, keeping the car consistent, being good throughout the night. Back in a moment. Back at Lowe's Motor Speedway, Concord, North Carolina. Mike Massaro, Dave Burns in the pits, Andy Petrie, Rusty Wallace, yours truly, Jerry Punch, covering NASCAR Nextel Cup action here in the happy hour. And these drivers are trying to get these cars dialed in. It's all about getting the little things to work in the car, particularly the electronics in the car, so it gets up to its full potential. Speaking of electronics, we asked some of the drivers, tell us about some of your favorite gadgets.
I guess the one device that I would have a hard time living without would be my GPS unit in my airplane.
I can't go anywhere without my laptop.
I could not live without my cell phone.
I would say iPhone and GPS.
Oh, I'm a music freak. iPod, yeah.
Because if it weren't for that, I would not be able to get where I'm going very well.
You know, I've got all my music on it, so I use it as my iPod, and I have an iPod too, so I don't go anywhere without either of them.
My whole world is in my cell phone. Everything that I need is right there.
You know, they're like my travel partners. I don't go out without them.
It might be the one electronic device I can work. I suck at electronics.
So they have to fix these cars themselves. They're enduring. How about the GPS for Carl Edwards in his airplane?
Yeah, and he's got a road map there. I don't know if he's going by the highways in the air or what he's doing. And you know what? I'm not going to let Elliott Sadler crawl under the dash of my race car.
Oh, Kevin Harvick spinning around here in happy hour. Doesn't seem...
Hasn't hit anything yet.
Oh.
Hold on to her, Kevin.
Hanging on, doing a couple 360s. Gets her woe down right in the middle of the grass.
He's got the air dam bent up on a little bit. That's not too bad, though. They can fix that. They can fix that pretty easy.
Okay, now, Kevin, we know where the edge is. Bring her back in here. We'll put some tires on and fix it.
All right, you want to make a bet it happen in turn 4?
Yeah. We'll see. How'd you figure that one out?
Everybody's off the track.
Turn 4 is tricky now.
All right, let's show you the ride that Kevin just had in turn 4. Calamity corner, as Rusty calls it.
He's right up against the wall. Got a good run going right there. And look, gets loose.
Man, that thing just jumped out from under.
Yeah, and guys, if you have world-class drivers losing the cars all by themselves off of turn 4, when you get aerodynamics involved in it, you get a car behind you or a car underneath you on the inside.
It's going to be even more tricky.
Wow, I can't wait till tomorrow night because...
Man, that's not a video game.
Now, Andy, do you have to worry about the motor now maybe spinning backwards in that thing?
Yes, I heard that engine, and I'm sure Kevin was very aware of this. And if he got the clutch in or got it where it didn't spin the motor backwards.
You know, I almost think the team's almost going to have to be better safe than sorry with the engine, maybe an engine change or something. Look, a lot of RPMs
this video.
there.
We're watching the wheels spinning, still spinning forward. He locks his brakes down. I think the engine's fine.
Okay.
After watching that replay, I would be okay with it.
Dave, what's going on down there?
Rusty, they asked Kevin exactly that. Did you spin it backwards? You know that question. You've had it come to you before. And Kevin said no. And like you guys described, had the wheels going forward before he got to the grass, and then in the grass didn't have it spinning backward either. The interesting thing to me is that they were just working on the fact that that car was too loose. And it's still too loose.
I'd say it is, Dave.
Guys, why is spinning the engine backwards such a big no-no, big liability here?
Well, the engine is just designed to go forward. You start spinning it backwards, you got a lot of issues going on. The oil pump is spinning backwards, so you're not making oil pressure. There's a lot of things going on. The valve train is turning backwards, so you're on the other side of the camshaft. It's just not something you want to do. and a lot of times it can just be something stupid that happens when you spin them backward.
Jerry, it's kind of like you're a right-handed guy. You're right with your right hand, and all of a sudden you got to do it with your left. It's kind of awkward. Okay, you kind of get it now, right?
I get you.
The engine doesn't like that. It likes to go one way, like Andy said. You know, that would make me mad. But above that, I heard that engine have a lot of RPMs as he laid in the throttle, trying to keep it off the wall. So I'd be a little concerned about that.
Okay, let's listen in and see if we can hear. Watch this thing rev.
Let's listen to this now. That hurt me. He's in that throttle.
I'd say it's okay. Watching this replay, I wouldn't be too worried about the engine. I'm really impressed with Kevin Harvick. During all of this, he's still very aware of that engine and not wanting to blow it up. Even trying to save the car and still trying to save the engine. That's a thinking race car driver.
And then he opened his eyes. I said, wow, I didn't hit nothing, man. That's cool.
So you're telling me that all those times you spun, you just close your eyes and wait till you stop somewhere?
Well, when I was upside down at Talladega about 23 times, I would close my eyes and hope nothing hurt. But, you know, a lot of times you spin the car, you got it in control, and that's obviously what Kevin did right there. But there has been some times when you need to close your eyes, that's for sure, because you can't fix it. Can't save it. Nothing.
Let's update what's going on with our pole sitter, Ryan Newman, down there. Mike Massaro.
Well, Doc, I just caught up with his crew chief, Mike Nelson, to ask him about the car. And as you can see by looking at the speed charts, pretty good in race trim, too. He's in the top 5, has been there most of the evening so far. And he says right now all they're trying to do is trying to figure out where that edge is, how loose they can get it without being too loose, so to speak. They've only made minor adjustments on this race car, a track bar adjustment, and adjusted the camber just a little bit, but they're pretty happy with the 12.
He wants to know where the edge is. He can go over there and ask Kevin Harvick. He knows where it is.
That's about a foot off the wall off of turn 4.
That's not nice, guys. Take a look at Ryan Newman's NASCAR Nextel Cup Series. You see he had the 8 wins, finished 6th in points, and hasn't been going in the right direction, but they seem to be this year, finally here these last few races, trying to get this thing all organized. And, you know, Ryan has not had the best of luck, and so we asked him about some of the misfortune he's had. Here's what he had to say.
They say that there is such a thing as racing luck. I think we missed a lot of that. But I also believe, more importantly, that you create your own luck, and we didn't do enough of that. So hopefully these last races here will prove that we can move.
I'd have to totally agree with that, guys. I mean, there is such thing as racing luck, and you want it, and when luck's against you, you just can't seem to get it back.
I've noticed the harder I worked in my career, the luckier I got. So it is some of it is making your own luck and working hard and trying to work in the right places. I know this team's been searching for that magic, and you just can't blame it on luck. Sometimes it is, but most of the time you make your own.
Andy, one thing I've been noticing, you and I talked about it in break just a little while ago, is that brakes. You saw some sparks flying out of the brakes in some of these cars. Remember the last race here, a lot of these teams were having brake problems. They're going down the straightaway so fast, and the car's real hard. They really have to get on the brakes hard to get these cars to corner and slow down enough.
This is the kind of racetrack you don't typically have brake issues or use a lot of brakes, so these teams will kind of get lulled into that sense of security that, hey, you know, we don't need a lot of air on the brakes, and we don't want to open up the front ends, but this is one of those tracks that they still have to pay attention to the brake wear.
As our NASCAR Nextel Cup Happy Hour begins to wind down, folks, remember, coming up next, we're going to have our countdown show. Alan Bessick will host Countdown down there. Brad Daugherty will be there. We're going to release our Rusty Wallace to head down to the pit studio and get ready for Countdown. You hustle back up here. We got a Busch race to call.
So I got to go take my blue shirt off, put my suit and tie on, and run back down and run back up, right?
Put your running shoes on, too.
And decaf while you're on the way down there.
Decaf. I can do it, guys. It's been nice being with you for a while. I'll see you later on before the race starts.
Tell Alan Bessick we said hello. Okay, you head down to Countdown. That's coming up next as we get ready to launch the NASCAR Busch Series night. But we're going to finish up Happy Hour. NASCAR Nextel Cup Happy Hour. And talk about one of the all-time greats here. How about this guy? Awesome Bill from Dawsonville. 56 career NASCAR Nextel Cup starts at Charlotte, 2-time winner. He finished second here 4 times, and they put him back in the 21 car for very good reason.
Well, they just fell out of the top 35 in points, which guarantees the owners a starting position, so they were 36. Bill Elliott, being a past champion, has a guaranteed starting spot, so they put Bill back in this car. Not just for that, he's a great race car driver, too, so we see some sparks flying out from under this 21, but this guaranteed that they would get into the field.
Bill Elliott's 1988 NASCAR champion. That year he had 6 poles and 6 wins. Look at that career for Elliott. 44 wins, 55 poles, top 10 320 times. And I can never forget the 1985 year when he had 11 wins, when Awesome Bill won the Winston Million at at Darlington. How about that effort that year? I mean, that's when really people started to notice how great a race car team. He did it with brother Ernie Elliott and brother Dan.
He did it with a family-owned team, and man, did they dominate the series that year. The car was so fast everywhere they went. I mean, whether it was Speedway, short tracks, intermediate tracks. This kind of a racetrack here at Charlotte's always been one of Bill's favorite racetracks.
From one former champion to a four-time former champion, Jeff Gordon back in the garage area.
And guys, while Rusty busts a move to get to the pit studio for the Busch Series, or to the where his location for the Busch race, it's become a scramble down here in the championship leaders pit in his garage area. Steve Letarte, the crew chief, has told Jeff, we need to give you what you need. As far as I can tell, the biggest complaint that Jeff has is a very sensitive race car getting down to the middle of the corner, one that doesn't want to, that wants to come around too easily getting down into the corner. And Andy, what they've gone to work on are the pivots in the front end, the pivot points, the front end geometry. Maybe you can explain that a little bit more, just to try to give Jeff a more secure feeling as he dives that car into the corner.
All of these A-frames, Dave, have pivot points or bolts where they bolt up to the frame. They can change the height of these things and the relationship to each other, and it really changes the handling of the car. It's not just springs and shocks and tires that make the car handle. It's a lot of these control arms and the geometry of those that it's just a lot of adjustments in those things.
The 2 car of Kurt Busch. He will start. Had a pretty good qualifying effort for Kurt, you know, getting this Penske car qualified in the top 10 at 8th spot. Now, Kurt is a 2-time winner here in 2007, but if you talk to him, and I was standing on pit road at Talladega last week waiting for him to go out and qualify, if you ask him about some of the fun things he has done this year, he says, you know, when I went up to ESPN headquarters and did that SportsCenter commercial with John Anderson, that's probably as much fun as I've had in a long time. Folks, take a look.
You know, I just thought 200 would be bigger. That's pretty much it. Like, how much for that one? Oh, a lot. Could we move it up? Oh, sure, okay. How's that? Better, yeah.
That was at Talladega when John finally convinced him to be able to put the SportsCenter logo up a little higher on the car. Our coverage of NASCAR Nextel Cup Happy Hour is being brought to you by Prestone Antifreeze in the yellow jug. Prestone protection, easy to choose, easy to use. Beautiful skyline of Charlotte, North Carolina. We are just outside of the Metrolina County, Charlotte, North Carolina, over in Concord here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. NASCAR Nextel Cup action, race 31 of 36 on the season. Tony Stewart being shown 5th overall here in Happy Hour in the 20 car. And what a finish. He was a major part of what happened in those final few laps at Talladega. And a lot of people, us included, thought he might have the car to beat with a lap and a half to go.
We're just trying to wait and see if it shuffles, then we go. If it doesn't, we wait. You know Matt, but
197 miles an hour. They take the white flag, 3 wide. Up high, Tony Stewart gets help from Casey Kane.
Here comes Gordon on the outside.
Tony Stewart pushes him by. Jeff Gordon, a 5-time Talladega winner. He knows how to get it done.
all the way to the line. All the way. Stay in it.
Jeff Gordon takes the win at Talladega.
That was impressive. Great job, Jeff. Way to hang in there all day. Woo! Man, I'm excited. Woo! Yeah!
At the beginning of that day, we talked about someone making a Hail Mary charge in the final laps at Talladega. Tony Stewart was there trying to hang on, but boy, it was Jeff Gordon who came from 11th with 10 laps to go. We talked about how Dale Earnhardt did it back in 2000. Jeff Gordon had to pass a lot of quality cars and make some very precise moves to get it done.
And he used patience. He didn't make his move too soon. He just used patience and got his teammates with him. And then he said, okay, if it shuffles, we go. If it doesn't, we stay here. Well, it shuffled just right for Jeff. And if he didn't make that move right in front of Tony Stewart was going to be the winner of that race.
So it was Jeff Gordon, of course, and then Jimmy Johnson, and this guy, Dave Blaney, who finished third at Talladega, coming to a track where he really thinks he's going to be a factor in both the Busch and the Cup race.
Dave Blaney had a strong car last week at Talladega, and these guys got some momentum now, back in the top 35 in points. Don't have to worry about this qualifying. They want to keep this car running up front so they can secure that top 35 spot going into next year. See what he's doing here is winding a wedge bolt. He took a little bit of wedge out of the left rear, going to this other the right rear, and he's doing the same thing. He runs that bolt down, and what that does is going to free the car up a little bit.
Final minutes of happy hour, making some adjustments. And Pat's on the deck lid, says, head on back out there, Dave. See what we got.
Hey guys, talking about Ricky Rudd here late in the going. Talked to him just before he hopped into his car for this final practice session about his shoulder. He's been out for a few weeks. He said, I'm feeling pretty good. One interesting thing his crew chief, Cully Barraclaw, told me was that we left the car a little bit tight for Ricky at the start of the practice session and during the last practice session because we didn't want it to have a situation where it was snappy loose and he had to react quick with that body, with that shoulder, to react to the steering of the car. Now, he may have to do that during the race, there's no question, but they didn't want him to re-injure something just in practice, so they've been gradually freeing up the race car. Ricky's calling for a little bit more, wants it to be just a little bit looser, but doesn't want it to be so loose that he re-injures himself before the start of around that 500 mile.
Dave, here's the accident, and remember, in his entire career of 900 starts, he had never missed a race because of injury, but watch this impact at California 6 races ago. The 88 car, that driver's side slams the wall at 170 miles an hour, produced a third-degree separation of his left shoulder. In fact, Ricky told me, he said, one of the problems of getting back in the car is, he said, the Hans device sits right over where my shoulder was separated, where that big knot is, and it's a little bit uncomfortable. 33rd in points, 1 top 10, and Ricky's going to call it quits after the end of this year, going to hang it up after a very successful career as a Cup driver, and hoping to be able to maybe go out with one more win for his buddies there at Robert Yates Racing.
Jamie McMurray has been fast all weekend. Seen following in behind the 9-car Casey Kane. This is a guy that's been on a roll, man. He's got his Busch car flying. He's got this car running good, qualified good. Qualified 6th for the race tomorrow. He knows this racetrack. For some reason, he really takes to this track.
He surprised a lot of people here back when he first came into the sport. He'd only run one NASCAR Nextel Cup race, and he was offered by Chip Ganassi and Felix Amadas to step in for the injured Sterling Marlin in the 40 car. And guess what happened? His second ever start, he goes to victory lane here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. They're saying, Jamie who? Who is this Jamie McMurray? Where did he come from? Hey, look at Chip Ganassi. He's got the legs here. Chip's holding the legs. You think he isn't happy? Tony Glover is there. Felix Amadas. Pretty thrilled to have that young man drive their car to time. Now he's moved over to Roush Fenway and really starting to come together. This whole team here, you know, the crew chief change this year probably has helped them, and they've shuffled the crew a little bit and given Jamie a lot of confidence.
After he won that race here, that first race, I thought, man, he's going to win a ton of races and going to do it in a hurry. But it was a long dry spell before Jamie won his second race. He won it this year in Daytona. So I know he didn't think it was going to be that long between wins, and I know he doesn't want it to be that long before his next win. So they're starting to get this thing back on track.
Yeah, Larry Carter, the former crew chief that was with Rusty Wallace the last few years that Rusty was driving, moved over, and some of the guys that were there at Penske came with Larry, and that's made a big difference for Jamie McMurray.
Always looking for that magic. You're trying to find that specific chemistry that'll make everything work, and Larry Carter's a good crew chief. Doing a good job for Jamie.
Well, that'll end it. NASCAR Nextel Cup Happy Hour is over, so the next time these cars will roll on the racetrack, we'll be covering it on ABC. Coming up Saturday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Stop number 5 in the 10-race chase for the Nextel Cup.
A lot of guys sitting down there on the pit road. They're getting what we call a tire sheet, where the Goodyear engineers will take a little probe and stick in the tires and measure the temperature, give them a little sheet, and go back and look at it and see how the car is handling.
Okay, crew chief, former car owner, you've seen Happy Hour. Tell me who you like. Well, before you tell me that, whoops.
Oh, okay. What we had here was a guy got a plug check, and this residual fuel gets down in the exhaust pipe, and it'll actually catch on fire sometimes. And then the only way you can get that to put out is to start the engine up. You saw him just fire the engine. The tire man had to get out of the way. Here's another one. Just got a plug check. It's just a little residual fuel that gets in those pipes and burns a little bit.
like that fire-breathing dragon we saw that Humpy Wheeler had here last night, entertaining the fans. Now, how about the 15-lap averages here? It's all about being consistent here for periods of time for long runs. 60-lap runs or thereabout. Look who's at the top of the charts there. No surprise, Jimmy Johnson.
How about David Gilliland there in the top 10?
Kurt Busch is there. Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick. We'll come back to wrap up our Nextel Cup Happy Hour coverage in just a moment. Back at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Well, tomorrow night it's all NASCAR Nextel Cup action. The Bank of America 500 in Charlotte, 7 o'clock Eastern time, 4 Pacific on ABC. Ryan Newman will lead him down. Jimmy Johnson, the 5-time winner, starts second. Bobby Labonte and Jeff Gordon in row 2. Let's take a look at the entire starting grid for the 500-miler. You see Ryan Newman, 7th career pole here at this racetrack. Jimmy Johnson, great effort by Bobby Labonte. Remember the chasers in yellow. We have 4 chasers starting in the top 10.
So you've got Kyle Busch back there in the 7th row. Michael Waltrip and David Rudeman back there in row 10.
As you take a look at the starting grid, Andy, you've seen Happy Hour. Tell me who you like. Who do you like for tomorrow night?
Well, believe it or not, I like Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's only 28 or 27th in this Happy Hour session, but his car looks good. He's happy with his car. It's hard to bet against Jimmy Johnson, but I like Dale Earnhardt Jr.
I think the 31 car for Richard Childress, it's about time. They're about due, Jeff Burton, these guys, to get a good run, but they got some work to do. Carl Edwards not only signing some autographs, he's going to be shuffling over to the NASCAR Busch Series cars. Speaking of NASCAR Busch action, we're going to get ready to go down to our countdown to the NASCAR Busch Series. Rusty Wallace, Brad Daugherty, and Alan Bestwick coming up next here with Countdown to NASCAR Busch action. Guys?